welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and roll your notifications to all so you don't miss any of the demonic content. So let's get down to brass tacks. Why is a conspiratorial demonology a bad thing to have? Well, let's take an example of a movement that's been in the news lately, and one that has also been covered on this channel, the New Apostolic Reformation. When we consider the movement broadly, it becomes quickly apparent that demons function as a kind of core element of the theology of this group. From the Seven Mountains mandate that teaches demons inhabit major areas of power and influence, to spiritual mapping, which seeks to root out the geographical strongholds of demon, to the notion of generational curses that create susceptibility to demonic influence among different groups. The movement is rife with ideas about demons and the demonic. It also becomes clear that these ideas about the demonic are conspiratorial in nature according to the traits I've provided you here. The demonology, for instance, seeks to other groups of people. The group has famously othered groups, for example, the LGBTQ plus community or the Democratic Party, as well as specific individuals like Kamala Harris and the Clintons. The demonology expresses itself as a series of inversions as well. Oftentimes, NAR authors express what they consider to be demonic and follow or precede it with the notion that good Christians are the exact opposite. For instance, God wants his chosen people to be prosperous, so poverty becomes a literal demonic spirit. Good Christians are therefore good capitalists, which means that communism is a herald of the end times brought about by demons. God wants national boundaries, which means Christian nationalism is a good thing, as contrasted by globalism or a one-world government, which is the beast of the apocalypse. The demonology also argues that the demons are responsible for issues in a majority of situations rather than a minority. As we've already discussed to some extent, NAR prophets tend to teach that demons swarm in your neighborhoods, are influencing school curriculum, impact politics, exercise malignant influence over geographical areas, tons of different things. It's not so much a question of what demons are involved in, so much as what they aren't involved in with the NAR. The demonology also consistently argues for the innocuous or non-threatening being the result of demonic manipulation. So there's a ton of examples that we could go through here, but one of my favorite is this discussion between Lance Wallnau, Mario Murillo, and Cod Cucinato.
So I'm of the opinion that the independents, that's the 20% out there, that are, the base on both sides is locked in. No Democrat got persuaded by Trump. No Republican or conservative got persuaded by Kamala. But what was accomplished was she can look presidential, and we'll go to this later. That's the seduction of what I would say is witchcraft. That's the manipulation of imagery that creates an impression contrary to the truth, but it seduces you into seeing it. So that spirit, that occult spirit, I believe is operating on her and through her, similar to with Obama, that there's a kind of an angel of light, charisma. You can see it at the DNC. And so when you're up against that, the good news is if we're going to go full tilt Pentecostal, Jezebel may be the spirit you're up against, but...
So what's going on here? Well, all three of them presumably watched the presidential debate. All three saw that Harris was the clear winner of the debate, and then all three felt the need to explain this, not by saying something like, oh, I don't know, she's better at policy, but he's clearly got better ideas. Or, well, she's a lawyer who spent years speaking in structured formats, and Trump doesn't have such experience, so obviously he lost in a structured debate. Instead, they say that Harris uses witchcraft given to her by the Jezebel spirit to manipulate the crowd, and that's the reason for her victory. The field also gives rise to experts, those who require no particular special training. So I'm going to call a spade here. The movement that we now identify as the New Apostolic Reformation, it's had some pretty significant thinkers, some of whom were very well educated. For example, C. Peter Wagner had a BA from Rutgers, a Master of Divinity and a Master of Arts from Fuller, a Master of Theology from Princeton, and a PhD from the University of Southern California. He then taught at Fuller Seminary as a professor. So while I profoundly disagree with the end result of his special training and expertise, it would be perverse of me to argue that he did not have that special training or expertise. Conversely, more and more of the movement now seems to list their credentials in terms of their prophetic chops or their ministries, a kind of special training that is both difficult to replicate and to assess in terms of its validity. So they qualify. What's the end result? Why is this a bad thing? Well, you combine this conspiratorial demonology with other traits of the New Apostolic Reformation, for instance, their non-denominational nature, which leads to little, if any, oversight, or the charismatic nature of the group's leadership, and you get a movement that can pivot on a dime to identify something as demonic without fear of any censure. The group also doesn't shy away from suggesting that humans can align with demons both willfully and accidentally, a fact which can invite a kind of total war mentality in those who believe you. In this way, NAR members are no longer contending against differences of opinions with other human beings, or practices they consider less than ideal. They're foot soldiers in a cosmic war fought between God and the devil. And the people who believe that are willing to go to any length to win the battle, like, say, storming the Capitol on January 6th. And if you're interested in that, I'd recommend you read Matthew D. Taylor's book. This has created a horrible situation in the United States, a population of individuals who believe they are combating literal demonic entities who are responsible for all of their woes and everything they hate in the world. Then, at the drop of a hat, the people who act as their prophets can galvanize that energy and move it towards whatever ends they see fit without the need for a governing body to agree with them. And that is both terrifying and a direct result of conspiratorial demonology.